solution is a powerful tool for climate adaptation, biodiversity conservation, disaster risk reduction, and advancing sustainable development. With the climate crisis escalating, integrating natural system into our adaptation strategies addresses environmental issues and delivers a range of social, economic, and ecological benefits. Today, we are fortunate to have an exceptional panel of experts who will shed light on innovative ways to utilize nature's potential to safeguard our communities and ecosystem. We are requesting all of you to take your seat and kindly be silent so that we can carry forward our panel nicely. Thank you. Now, to guide this enriching discussion, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Dr. Tania Bhattacharya, founder and CEO of the Celestial Earth. Dr. Bhattacharya is an expert in the areas of ecosystem services, biodiversity conservation policies, urban environment, and sustainable development. She holds a PhD in environmental management from Yokohama University, Japan, and has over 15 years of global experience. Her work is highly respected with many international publications, and she has been recognized by the World Bank as the leading women entrepreneur in sustainable development in South Asia region. Thank you, Dr. Tania, for joining us as a moderator for this session. Now, it's my honor to introduce our esteemed panelists who bring with them a wealth of knowledge and experience in nature-based solutions and sustainable development. Our first panelist is Shri Ranjan Rashmi. He is a distinguished fellow at TERI with expertise in climate policy, carbon market, and environmental sustainability. He is a retired IAS officer with over 35 years of experience, and he played a key role in shaping India's climate strategy during the Paris Agreement and served as the country's principal negotiator at the UNFCCC. Our second panelist is Dr. Madhu Verma. She is the advisor head of ecosystem service valuation at IORA Ecological Solutions. She is an environmental economist with 39 years of experience in ecosystem valuation, green accounting, and nature-based solutions. She has contributed to major international reports like TEB and NBS and led numerous impactful projects on conservation finance and forest valuation. Next, we have Professor Pradyot Jena. He is a professor at the National Institute of Technology, Karnataka. Dr. Jena specializes in climate change adaptation, food security, environment impact valuation, and climate finance. He has worked extensively on rural livelihood in the developing countries. He is also the author of the book Sustainable Agricultural Value Chain. Next, we have Ms. Akshita Sharma. She is a climate change officer, climate adaptation at ADB. She is skilled in areas such as environmental health and safety, biodiversity, and analytical research. Her expertise also extends to patent law, making her contribution invaluable to this discussion. Our final panelist is Ms. Urjaswi Sodhi. She is a project associate in Action for Climate and Environment Unit in UNDP. She has worked on adaptation development project with a focus on community-led ecosystem-based adaptation and innovative conservation tools such as OECMs. We are honored to have you all here with us today. Together, this panel represents diverse expertise and real-world insights that will help us dive deeper into the role of nature-based solutions for climate adaptation and sustainable development. I now hand over the session to Dr. Tania Bhattacharya to begin the discussion. Over to you, Tania.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. And so we are starting our second panel on nature-based solution and climate adaptation. So as we were hearing the discussion from the morning onwards, climate resilient development is essential for any kind of sustainable development. And mitigation is not the only solution for that. We need climate adaptation to take the lead, so that the countries, all the nations can reach their net zero target. So we'll focus on the nature-based solutions and climate adaptations today. While industries are moving towards net zero emissions by adopting various technological options, policies are also setting in place to support transition. And adaptation planning is especially very crucial for India due to its significant vulnerabilities to climate change. As a diverse and developing nations with high developmental aspirations, India faces significant challenges including rising temperature, erratic monsoons, increasing frequency of extreme weather events, and the melting glaciers. So these impacts pose threats to agriculture, water resources, health and infrastructure, making adaptation planning very essential for sustainable development of India. However, not only in India but global south and rest of the world is also victim of damaged climate for which they are less responsible in this. So this is the time now to speed up the implementation of climate adaptation practices and financing, taking up different nature-based solutions including enhancing the carbon sequestration of different ecosystem services including forest, wetlands, riverine, etc. so that we can achieve the desired goal of climate resilient development pathway leading towards net zero. So we have the distinguished and eminent panelist experts in this field, and they will share their insights and knowledge with their vast experiences in the field of nature-based solution and climate adaptation planning. And so as you know that all the sessions compendium will be put together as a white paper and it will be presented to the MOFCC India. So we have framed the flow of the panel in such a way so that we can capture different arenas of climate adaptation planning. So we have in our this panel will focus on the climate financing need for climate adaptation, because without the financing any kind of implementation, be it mitigation or adaptation, not possible. So climate financing is very important for anything to do any kind of implementation in today's world. And then to get the climate financing, we need to know the valuation of different ecosystem services. So without the valuation, you can't tell the private sectors, please see that this is the, if you conserve this, if you invest for the conservation and restoration, this will be the benefit. And without, if you invest in these so restoration and conservation, it is not going to happen to reach the net zero target or whatever it is. So ecosystem services valuation is one major topic in our today's panel. And then definitely we'll talk about different ecosystem services and their role in nature-based solution and climate adaptation and how they can help in carbon sequestration to reach the net zero target. So and then we'll definitely try to capture the most important aspects of sustainable development goals, that is food security. So nature-based solution for agriculture and food security is also we will cover in this panel. And finally, as we have seen from Dr. Rashmi's discussion also, that the government of India has picked up the national adaptation planning, where there will be huge importance will be provided for the community ecosystem services management and all these things, and we need to see how inclusive we can be, including the tribal, local community, tribal people, indigenous people, gender and all together how we can take care of the ecosystem services and do the community-based management for ecosystem services, so that we can, the nature can provide its solution itself and we can make the adaptation planning and implementation in a nice way. So I'll not talk much as the eminent speakers are waiting to share their views with you. So I'll first go to Dr. Rashmi sir, and he will be focusing his topic on the climate finance, and I would like to ask him to discuss about the climate financing, how it is important and what are the innovative techniques and methods are coming up with the new ideas, so that the adaptation implementation could be done in a smooth and effective manner. Over to you, Rashmi sir.
Thank you very much, and good morning. Since we are discussing the financing in the context of nature-based solutions, although adaptation is much larger than NBS. Let me focus on the NBS part of financing. We have heard some views in the first session in the morning. Now, the first is developing a framework for financing adaptation in the as long as wherever nature-based solutions are concerned. And second is finding the money, finding the right sources of finance. So let me first attempt the first one. Do we have a clear framework for measuring the adaptation benefits through nature-based solutions? I think solutions do exist, but they don't exist as part of our policy planning. The markets, for example, exist in rewarding the ecosystem services. There is a huge literature available on how payment for ecosystem services can be done. So environmental services, ecosystem based services can be measured and the benefits can be monetized. And this is a good way of helping the communities adapt to climate change. But the problem is this has so far not been anchored in any policy framework. The governments, in any of the government's development programs, you will not find any reference to ecosystem-based services at all, certainly not in terms of payment for the services. So the first requirement, I think, is that we integrate this solution of payment for ecosystem services in the developmental planning. And how do we do that? Simply mainstreaming the adaptation into developmental planning in the context of nature-based solutions is also not going to help unless we have a clear methodology for ensuring that these benefits are passed on to the communities. Now, if you look at the state, the way most of the governments work, or even the non-government agencies work at the ground level, there is no long-term planning as far as the adaptation is concerned. Most of the government programs look at only the immediate benefits. They don't look at the long-term benefits. So question is, how do you ensure that the developmental programs ensure that these benefits are monetized, accounted for and passed on to the communities? This is a challenging task, and to my mind this will happen if some kind of a result-based financing framework is established at the ground level. And the panelists in the first session did talk about taxonomy, various indicators on which this measurement can take place. So, keeping into account those the indicators, the results, it's possible for the governments to ensure that a part of the payment for the developmental expenditure takes place with reference to the adaptation benefits which are accounted for through these indicators. That is one. Second was the blended finance, which was also referred to in the morning. Now, after all, blended finance is a debt finance, and you must realize that most of the governments are already stressed. Their debt levels are already very high. So I am not sure if we can really recommend high level of debt financing, including blended finance, for the purpose of adaptation, unless it is meant for improving infrastructure which builds climate resilience. We have seen the examples of blended finance facilities being created in Goa and Kerala, but that is meant for those projects where you can clearly see the results in terms of infrastructure and climate resilience. Adaptation is a very difficult task there. So we can recommend blended finance only for those areas where you maybe restoration, maybe infrastructure improvement, and climate resilience can take place and can be measured clearly. But As far as adaptation benefits are concerned, where ecosystem benefits are concerned, we have to rely for a large, in a very large measure. I think we will have to rely on the fiscal support, the government expenditure, public support, and also partly voluntary market. So, one is the budgetary support, which I have talked about. Second is the pledged finance for infrastructure and climate resilience. And third element is the voluntary market, where there is a possibility that we can provide some financial support to the communities which are vulnerable to climate change. Again, the challenge here lies in going beyond carbon. Most of the credits which are available in the market and which are traded for a value, they only reward carbon benefits. They don't reward non-carbon benefits to a very large extent. So the challenge here again is to build a system of credits, measurement of credits, and measurement, verification, and generation of credits which take into account these adaptation benefits, the environmental services, which can not only improve our sustainability benefit, but also help improve the income levels of the farmers or the vulnerable communities. There is a way of doing that. Some methodologies already exist. We will have to see that these get integrated in a policy framework. Maybe something like a green credit, which the government has talked about. But certainly the markets need to move in that direction, and we will need to create kind of systems which can help communities provide that access to it. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rashmi sir, for your insightful and very updated presentation. And we got an idea about the climate finance, be it blended finance or payment of ecosystem services or community-based, community-based motivational payment system and all these things. So thank you, Rashmi sir. And when we'll talk about climate finance, we need to see that how the finance, the budget would be decided based on the valuation of the ecosystem services. So ecosystem services valuation are extremely important to motivate the private sector, the public sector, the international organization, multilaterals and bilaterals to come and protect the ecosystem, different kind of ecosystem services. And we will now go to Madhu Verma ma'am, who is an expert in the ecosystem services valuation, and we would ask her to share her knowledge on these valuation method. Actually there is not a very standard methodology for ecosystem services valuations are available worldwide. There are different kinds of methodologies used by the scientists and the policy makers. But still, we will try to understand which could be the most appropriate methods to capture the valuation, especially the commercial valuation of different ecosystem services like forest, wetland, and all these things. So over to you, Madhu ma'am, if you can just share your highlights on this topic.
Thank you very much, Tania, for having me for the session. So my throat is a little bad. I've been traveling quite a lot and changing weathers and extreme heat and cold affected my throat a bit. But that's what, I'm just trying to also use nature-based solution for my throat instead of taking allopathic and like other medicines to reach back to my normal voice. Anyways, I must tell you that I have been living my life out of nature-based solutions. I've been working all my life on nature-based solutions, started with my work, that's taking pension about in the morning. I joined IIM in 1994 and had a chance to also interact with his batch. And the work has been around all kinds of ecosystems and providing ways to organize these systems in a way that they provide a lot of benefits to the society. Mainly focusing on the health of these ecosystems, and the ecosystems are healthy, economy is also healthy. That's the kind of a connect we would like to make, and we have been making always. And then also it ensures the security of livelihoods for people who are dependent on them, provides the well-being of the population. That's what the intent of doing this thing, and that's what has been the work nationally, internationally. I must also, I'm taking the baton forward from Dr. Rashmi, who talked about the status of these finances in the country. And I must also mention to you that we have been working towards that, and a chance to work. I was part of the ministry because I am this ministry's organization, and worked across different finance commissions as well, other ministries, and were able to actually take this forward and bring this knowledge to the major policy makers to incorporate the value of ecosystem services in their decision-making process. So that's what this idea is all about. So there's a huge connect which exists, I just mentioned about between the ecosystems and the well-being of the population. I had a chance to work with the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment Report, where we established this kind of a classification of ecosystem services. Where we classified them as provisioning, which give you a daily kind of a need, regulating, which controls the mechanism, which we talk about the climate change, mitigation, adaptation. The whole climate regulation comes into it. The cultural, the aesthetic aspect of it, the landscape value of it. And besides these, the backstage work, the behind the curtain work is with supporting services like primary nutrient cycling, primary production, soil formation, and all that. Because of it, we get security of our lives, basic materials of good health, and good social relations and health as such, basic materials of good life. And that's what is the idea, to understand why should we invest in nature. If we invest, we can see the strong and weak linkages, dotted and straight linkages, which provide good support to the system. Of course, NBS has been talked about a lot since morning, and it's the power of natural process to ecosystem to create resilient and multi-scale. So resilience is nothing but the biodiversity is nothing but the climate change. So a strong connect exists between these three factors. If you have diversity, you have systems available to fix the problem of climate change. If you are resilient, you can come back to normalcy very fast because you have such an option available with you. Like we also have a resilient system, and then we come back to normalcy. So they help in restoring, creating new ecosystems. They have modified ecosystem services flows, and we have targeted ones. That's what we Dr. Rashmi was talking about. Our entire approach tends to be the same thing as being said in the previous session, very carbon centric. Same investment goes in restoration of forests, for example, restoration of wetlands, maybe creating sort of rain gardens for stormwater protection in suppose the urban areas. You talk about bunting, and you're talking about changing entire ecosystems such that come back to normalcy. You may target maybe, for example, carbon sequestration, but lots of co-benefits come into being. In fact, they are not just co-benefits; they are the major benefits which come on account of it. For example, biodiversity. I have worked across different organizations, different geographies across the globe. Where it's not just carbon; it's green carbon, it's blue carbon, it's steel carbon, it's carbon coming from various places, biodiversity, rich carbon. They have different values. I mean, a lot of taxonomy is required to make it further clear. Like for example, there's an interesting case study from Brazil where you have a coffee served in a biodiversity-rich cup. Coffee which is coming out of biodiversity plantations done in a biodiverse area. There's a cloud coffee, there's a sun-exposed coffee, there's a black forest coffee. So they are all premiumly priced. Why? The content varies because of enrichment on account of biodiversity and many other such factors. These are the various factors which are being built into the system. Then we all have core benefits which are not targeted, which comes into, because as I said, biodiversity, improve air quality. When you do sequestration, when you are doing plantation, then such benefits come into being. That's the idea. To quickly run through because not going to put it by time. Just give you kind of the presentation will be here. You can have a look. I just wanted to also give you a capsule version of the work being done in past years to bring this knowledge to the platform of all sorts of stakeholders, not just the policy makers. We always target policy makers. It is everybody's got a role to play in the system. We are all part and parcel of the system. Everybody has a role to play. Be the primary stakeholders, the people who are dependent on that. Be the investors, be the corporates, be the funding agencies, be the policy makers, be the individuals, the so-called citizens of the country. So there's a whole process flow to use ecosystem services valuation. It's a very, very complex technique. We got into modeling of ecosystem services, using diverse mechanisms, which I was a part of PEEP process and now NBS as well. Integrated Science Policy Platform for Adaptation Ecosystem Services, which is a parallel to IPCC kind of a framework, where we intensively work on these diverse conceptualization of values. It's not simple, which looks like But you have to start from a simple model to let this one indicator represent a particular service and then accordingly work it out. You do valuation, you do accounting, you then set up. It's like setting a value of a house on sale or on rent. It has a different features on which the value is decided. Same thing goes with the ecosystem. Based on how enriched, how degraded, how well organized the system is, the value is decided. So we already said the payment per ecosystem service. But payment is a very generic term, I must tell you. It is, we are not doing actually payment per ecosystem services in real terms. Payment is a voluntary mechanism where there is a buyer and seller, so this for you to decide the price. But we set an administrative price because that is a capitalist approach to set the price based on the market. No one can pay that price. If you look at the value of carbon, even that is not as such the market price. But there is some prices, some values there. So we use three-pronged approach for setting up so-called PS, either based on the so-called price, which is the collision of market, or based on the cost of adaptation, cost of mitigation, right, cost of restoration, or if nothing is available, we set a price based upon what we call as valuation, conducting service to get the value over there. Secondly, it is again classified as not just payment, which is the price, it is reward, it is compensation, it is incentive. That's how we try to work out. Some incentive should be there for people to come forward and conserve ecosystem. This is what the process goes on. Lots of publications we have done because it's all ministry and TCA. I'll just focus on two quick because time is less. I have presentation available, you can have a look definitely. Lots of publications we made. The most focused one I would say, which really brought us into the international map of doing this work on assessing the value of tiger reserves in the country. We take pride, I was teaching in the class, if you Google India's site, 3 T's come in front. You have Taj Mahal, you have chai, which is tea, and third is tiger. Whosoever comes to India likes to see Taj Mahal, like to buy tea. Bina tiger dekhe to koi jate nahi. Dekhe na dekhe, you tend to visit tiger reserve and get to see. But it is again a tiger-centric approach, but that's apart. So we did this 2 reports for 16 tiger reserves valuation we had done. Let's get the whole story short. If you talk about nature-based solution, the very most quoted course is out of New York City, where the 2 fountains, 2 catchments are being managed to supply pure water in the city. No filtration is being done. But intensive interventions are being made to keep the entire watershed intact. It is a payment that people are paying a very less price. Otherwise, if it goes through filtration process, and it would have been very, very high. Second case quoted is Yellowstone National Park, where wolves are introduced, the grey wolves are introduced to bring back the system into its normalcy. The river used to flow through Yellowstone National Park, which got dried up because coyotes were in huge number, they were eating grasses, they were disturbing the entire system. The moment wolves are introduced, they control the population of coyotes, it led to increase in grasses, sapling, trees, and the river which was dried up is perennial now. We in India never think about this kind of case. I must tell you, we have been working in tiger reserves, we have 57 tiger reserves now. And the world 700 rivers originate, tributaries of rivers originate from these tiger reserves. There's a case of Tamil Nadu, you can see the right side. It was a dried river. The moment the city was declared as a tiger reserve, it has the highest conservation status. Interventions were made, conservation was done, and the river which was dried out became activated, became live. It is a perennial river. So it is very pretty title. Tamil Nadu teaches saving tiger is saving river, saving water. This is how we connect to nature-based solution. And I'll just run through, we have done a huge amount of work. So, but what I wanted to also tell you, there's a process of arriving at the value. It's not so easy as we sometimes think about. The huge amount of information is required, database is required. We tried at the Stanford University, we had been using INVEST model to capture these values. Every pixel is being mapped, we capture these values and according to models being set and values being projected. We did for 28 services in evaluation and used based upon that it was an eye-opener to the government and everybody. I brought back my teachings of class by using a model called as Keynesian investment multiplier model. The Keynesian theory of investment. To invest a rupee, what it leads to in the system. So we demonstrated through our valuation stuff that if you invest a rupee in tiger reserve, it not just conserve tiger, but it generates water, conserves soil, just pool regulation, nutrient cycling, soil formation, pollination service, carbon sequestration. Many more things come into being. Like for example, Sundarbans. I've been working a lot on Sundarbans these days, and this is a 12 years old story. Invest a rupee, you get 530 times returns on that investment in Sundarban Tiger Reserve. Calcutta City doesn't have a waste treatment plant. The entire waste of Calcutta City is being treated by Sundarban Tiger Reserve. Imagine establishing a treatment plant and then putting capital cost investment, 1 investment, and how much value would have gone. The system charge would have been taken from the people. So why not City of Calcutta compensates Sundarban Tiger Reserve for this wonderful work? This is payment for ecosystem service. So this is what the story is all about for all of this ecosystems issue. We looked at the climate adaptation mitigation, all such costs been estimated, and first an ecology component was proposed to the Finance Commission. So everything was value basis or price basis, cost and benefit basis, but it is a kind of a compensation given. It was payment. Can we use a reward, compensation, incentive, whatever way you want, restoring the system such that it continuously provides you benefits. So I'll just stop here. I've given examples of your list of 8 points that you've given. Just give you one example because you are agriculture, for example. So we looked at the NBS. What could be agriculture NBS? Soil and water conservation means bundling, check dams, farm ponds, gully plugs are the kind of one option. Water harvesting through rainwater harvesting, tank desalination, agroforestry, tree planting, pasture development. I was saying this, there are all engineering kind of solutions which you get into by using the materials of the nature itself. Improved agronomy, drought-tolerated crops, soil testing, organic farming, community participation was also one of your part. So we have all user associations, SLGs. In fact, when I was WRA for 3 years after leaving IFM, I did a study on agricultural sector and doubling farmers' income. We used the entire TEEF framework, which is the Ecological Economics framework, to do that. And now in IORA, we are having lots of such interventions we are documenting on adaptation mitigation in the land-based ones. So what ecosystem services which you see was focusing on our capture plan I was mentioning. So first of all, increased water infiltration and groundwater recharge happens. Reduced soil erosion and degradation happens. This is being corrected. This is being reduced, and improved soil health and fertility happens. Carbon is being captured, enhanced biodiversity. Did you ever think about beyond per hectare any kind of benefits from agriculture? Nobody thought about it. We did its calculation for a geography in Madhu Pradesh and documented cases across the country to demonstrate these examples, and presentation was made in the ministries, and they be taken forward. But not just climate, we have a lot of socio-economic benefits also coming to be. Improved crop yield. Climate is being, of course, taken care of by capturing by climate regulation, carbon sequestration. Reduced drought vulnerability, diversified income, reduced input costs. Diversified incomes come through improving the value chain definitely, because you're trying to reduce the impact of carbon everywhere, and also by diversified incomes through ecosystem services and other services as well. Enhance food security and improve livelihoods. So this is the canvas in which we have to understand and discuss, but it's not an easy task. The beginning has to be made, and it is being made, but has to be intensified, taken care of. And I must tell you at the end, one of the story that the best language that anybody has to understand is language of numbers. It's like if दूसरी भाषा में समझा लीजिए, you can give them textual information, demonstration. Unless you explain through benefits and cost, what is your loss, what is your gain, what is your improvement in terms of your livelihoods and income, things won't happen. It's the best language to communicate to the policy makers, to any set of stakeholders, and that's why you look for investment. See, ultimately, the story is around private finance. How you generate finance. I would say this much is required to be done in this sector. If you invest, these kind of benefits will flow. And again, you talk about investment multiplier. This is how economics works, and so I think we all are joining hands together to take this forward. And thank you for having such.
Thank you so much, Ranjan, for this interesting presentation. Many thanks. So it was a very interesting presentation by Madhu ma'am. So the most important message came out through her speech is that if the health of ecosystem services are well, our well-being is ensured. So it is very important to conserve the different kind of ecosystem so that they can provide their services, be it professional services, regulatory services, or cultural services well, so that we can continuously maintain our well-being. And Madhu ma'am has also captured the different, that in a different kind of ecosystem services valuation in a very simplistic manner. She has talked about the accounting of ecosystem services, then co-benefit approach, cost-benefit approach, and including payment of ecosystem services. And also, that is the message is also very beautiful, that it is very important for the community, for the tribal people to get a little bit of incentives to motivate their work so that they get encouraged to protect our ecosystem services. So that's a beautiful presentation. Thank you, Madhu ma'am. And now we'll go to Professor Pradyot from Jena. And I ask him to highlight on the nature-based solutions role for agriculture and food security. And food security is one of the most important, objective for the sustainable development goal. So with Professor Jena's huge experience in the field of agricultural and food security, I'd ask him to highlight on that fact and how the nature-based solution could be implemented in this area, contributing to the planning for climate adaptation. Over to you, Professor Jena.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tania and Dr. Alindo and the TCE team to have me here. I come from the southwestern part of India now. I'm based out of Mangalore. So today's discussion, many panelists have talked about evaluation. So I guess my presentation here is a bit on that. How we evaluated few projects that we have done with the local communities in Odisha. So this introduction is actually very known to you, not much new here, that agriculture is both a victim and a contributor to climate change. It contributes, alone agriculture contributes around 14%, and together with allied activities about 24% of the total global greenhouse gas emission. And the concerning issue, together with climate change impacts, which is obviously disproportionately going to affect the food producers and all those who are involved in the food supply chain in the low income countries. So together with that, we see that about 28% of the cultivable land is degraded to a certain extent. Some is very degraded up to the extent that it cannot be used actually for agriculture anymore. So that's a big concern, that soil degradation and desertification is happening in big way. So the solution that has been thought of is actually the nature-based solutions, climate smart agriculture. Okay, CSA, as we know it of, is also nature-based, some part of it at least. These are some of the pictures from my field study, which I did in certain parts of Odisha, and you can see the traces of saline water to drought-prone areas, and so on. Here is a map of Karnataka, where I'm working now. You'll see the northern part of Karnataka is very vulnerable. Not only climate vulnerable, it is climate vulnerable, it is drought prone, very less rainfall happen in the northern part of Karnataka, but also socio-economic vulnerabilities, meaning that lack of adaptation, lack of irrigation, and so on. So both climate vulnerability and socio-economic vulnerability makes it very problematic for the residents there, the communities, farming communities especially, and hence the suicide rates are actually big there. Okay. So what do we do? Of course, Dr. Verma has given a very good concept of nature-based solutions, how the nature-based solutions are natural processes that are being used to solve the societal challenges. I would go to some of the CSA techniques that we looked at. Okay, crop diversification, minimum tillage, agroforestry, etc. So all these techniques, they are based on that concept, that it uses the science of nature. Basically, it is nature friendly and uses it to the benefit of the climate as well as the farmer. So CSA has three concepts, that is increasing the productivity by nurturing the soil and the ecosystem services. Second one is enhancing resilience of the farmers. And third one is mitigating the greenhouse gas emission, like methane and so on. Okay. This is a project, this is a collaboration between actually our university, NITK, ADBI, the Asian Development Bank Institute, Japan, and the State Agricultural Department of Odisha. So, soil health card system has been there in India for quite some time now. I think it started officially in 2016, but then it has changed its format and features. So what we did is that we discussed with the State Agriculture Department that they have implemented the soil health card system in certain villages of Koraput district. Okay, so we took that as kind of our treatment, and then we created some control villages. So it's an experimental design. Not exactly RCT, randomized control trial, but it's an experimental setup where we took the treatment given by the state government in terms of soil health card in certain villages, and then we randomly created a group of control villages which are at least 5 kilometers away from any of these treatment villages in the same district. So we have the treatment villages which are done by the government, the state department, and then we have our own design of control villages. So that was in 2021. The treatment was given in the form of this is it looks like better, but this is one of the health card. It actually shows the different parameters of the soil, 5 to 6 parameters of soil, like pH, organic carbon level, nitrogen, phosphorus. So different components measure and micronutrients of soil that has been tested. So, and then they give an advisory based on these soil properties, what kind of crops are suitable in that soil. And then for those crops, what kind of fertilizer to what doses can be given. So this is contained in that soil health card. Together with that, advisory in terms of extension actually is also given, wherein the extension officers provide information in terms of farmer field school and so on, how to use it, okay, and also how to collect soil. Okay, here are some pictures, how to collect soil. So there is a proper format how you collect soil, not from the sorry. So in 2023, what we did is our team actually tested the soil of both treatment and control groups from which was given in 2021, and then we did some statistical tests. Okay, we actually used both linear regressions and machine learning techniques, and then we found that yes, so the treatment group soil has improved to some extent. Okay, it's a short period of time to get a big result, but yeah. So I was just telling this because this is not important, all the details of this evaluation, but that the evaluation of certain adaptation measures is which has been highlighted in the previous sessions. In that context, that this kind of evaluation, which is keeping in consideration of the scientific rigorous evaluation techniques, actually produces the actionable intelligence or actionable data as to if a certain adaptation measure is financed, then what kind of impact is being generated, and this can be also monetized, right? Which we also did in other projects. Here we show the impact of 3 particular adoption techniques, management adoption techniques. One is crop diversification, soil management. So here we show that again, following the rigorous statistical techniques, that what is the impact. Okay, So this kind of impact can be used to create the actionable data or to turn it into finance, the requirement of the finance that can be raised. Some of the implications or some of the recommendations, what we understood from the field, the insights, is that there needs a bottom-up approach. We have seen that both the the extension people, or at the village level workers and the farmers, they sometimes get confused with the actual implementation part of the program. Okay. Sometimes what happens is, this is, I say, crowding out of the programs. Sometimes what happens that every 2 years a new government program comes, and then it changes the previous preparation and previous action in the field. So they have to jump into the new mode again. So that creates actually, that reduces a lot of momentum because of the crowding out of the policies. So what requires is the continuation. You probably need 6 to 7 years to give the program to run in the field and see what real impacts is happening. Okay, and the bottom-up approach is required. That while somebody I think was saying that Vivek was saying that none of the stakeholders are in the room, meaning that if we are talking about farmers, some of them should be here, or in any kind of meeting to give their voice. Okay, that doesn't happen even at the secretarial level. I have talked to the Principal Secretary of Agriculture in Odisha and at the secretarial level. So that kind of information just doesn't come up. Okay, so I think, I don't know, I mean, there has to be a multi-stakeholder meetings and some kind of mechanism wherein they have to be involved in a regular basis, showing that how this policy, crop insurance, or the different subsidy programs, nowadays if you do crop diversification, then there is subsidy. So how that actually gets into action. Apart from that, a few other recommendations which I will produce. One last point I will finish it with is the farmer-to-farmer extension, which we found is very important. That is the peer effect. Okay, so when they speak to each other, which happens quite often, their information or their actionable information comes from their peers much more than from the technical people. So to harness it in a real workable way, I think the farmer producer organizations needs to be more strengthened. Okay, in a cooperative, the cooperative as a farmer cooperatives, wherein the inclusivity, which was the buzzword in the morning, the inclusivity can come out of it when these kind of voices are being formalized, okay, in the cooperative, and then that message goes to the policy making level. Thank you very much. This is a book that we have recently published, which contains some of these, in different chapters, some of these insights. Thank you very much to the whole team.
Thank you so much, Professor Jena, for your insightful presentation, and you have beautifully presented the technique of climate smart agricultural practices, and you have covered you have shown us the picture of climate vulnerability in the state of Odisha and Karnataka, and how the suicidal rate is increasing in Karnataka because of the lack of food security, and how nature-based solution can address these kind of serious issues. We have also talked about soil health card, which is also an important idea to maintain the sustainable agricultural practices. So many thanks for your beautiful presentation. And now we'll move to Akshita from Asian Development Bank. And Akshita, we would like to know from you that what is the condition of one of the most important ecosystem forest, that is forest, and what is the condition of forestry resilience in India, and how the afforestation as nature-based solution can combat the disaster risk, helping carbon sequestration and achieving the net zero target worldwide. Over to you, Akshita. And also if you can kindly highlight on the ADB's contribution in climate adaptation practices implementation and increasing the resilience in the different ecosystem services.
Great, thanks so much, Dr. Tania. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm Akshita and I'm the Climate Officer for Adaptation in Asian Development Bank. I'm going to talk about a topic which is really close to my heart, and I've been working in the forestry sector in my previous position when I was working with Urjaswi with the Verma as the sector manager for biodiversity in India. It's also very interesting that finally we're talking about adaptation. I feel as a millennial, adaptation feels like a long lost cousin of climate change combating mechanism, and rightly so, because right now we do not need to combat climate change, we really need to adapt to it. And nature has been adapting itself for a millennia. We do not really consider this, but forestry as an ecosystem has been providing us nature-based solutions which are very elegant, which are very sustainable and cost-effective. Nothing what a human mind can engineer ever. I would like to begin with a story because all of us love stories, and it's also going to be a good change because we've been talking a lot in details about intensive subjects. So let's go back in time. 5 years ago, the eastern coast of India was hit by a cyclone, the Amphan, and what came to the rescue of the eastern coast? Was it amazing infrastructure we built recently? Well, no. It was the nature-based solution, the existing mangroves, which faced the spur of the winds moving at about 260 kilometers per hour. And it was very interesting to find out that communities were living across the Sundarbans. The casualty was less than 70%. As compared to other parts of the affected areas. So here you see, a nature-based solution, especially in the forestry sector, plays a very crucial role in combating the climate change impacts, especially when we talk about resilience. And when I am talking about the Sundarbans, why I am talking about Sundarbans and not in mangroves, it's because Sundarbans belongs to the forestry sector. The first line of defense was not your general mangroves, but it was the Sundarban Tiger Reserve, which, because of its amazing conservation, acted as a first line of defense. And it's not about Sundarban as a forest landscape. If you talk about any forest landscape in the world, they have been playing a crucial role in protection. Be it protecting us from river dredging, be it protecting us from the erosion or maintaining the hydrological cycle. Everything we owe to the forest. And the government of India is actually playing a very important role in conserving and enhancing these nature-based solutions. This morning, Madam Rashmi talked about the impact of restoration of mangroves, which has been undertaken by the Mishti program. Very well executed, and it's enhancing the mangrove cover in the states of West Bengal, Odisha and Gujarat. Also about the Green India Mission, where the restoration of about 1 million hectares of land has taken place, which is adding to the wealth of India, not only in terms of tree plantation, but also providing resources to the communities. I would also like to highlight here a point which we've been discussing since morning and not finding a solution to it: communities. Do you have any idea that communities are largely dependent on forest, what we call as forest dependent communities, and forest sector in India is actually playing a very important role in safeguarding them and protecting them, providing a crucial approach towards adaptation. Now these indigenous communities are party towards conservation efforts which have been started by the forest department across the country. Not only party to conserve, but party to be a beneficiary of the services of the ecosystem. Any plantation drive which is carried by the forest department in India, the communities are directly benefiting from it. Ecotourism, which is another important component of forestry sector, communities are directly benefiting from it. So absolutely, I'd say nature-based solutions which are coming from forests are not only providing resilience towards climate change, but also protecting us, protecting the communities and safeguarding them. I'll keep it short, and now I'll come towards what, as a banker, as ADB, we are trying to do. See, as a banker, there is only so as a banker, I think we have a limited role in what we can actually do in bringing about a change. We finance solution, absolutely, we finance innovation, but it has to come from the minds like Dr. Madhu Verma, who can do a complete ecosystem service valuation from people like Professor Jena, who can tell us about how smart irrigation and agriculture really works. But I would like to point out some important initiatives which have been undertaken by ADB in India and globally. So the first important initiative was in Himachal Pradesh, where ADB played an important role in collaborating with government of Himachal Pradesh and restoring about 300,000 hectares of forest land, which in turn led to sequestration of about 1.6 million tons of carbon, and as well as it provide employment to about 40,000 people. Another very interesting intervention which was undertaken by ADB was in Philippines. So Philippines was stuck with this typhoon Idol, and a lot of restoration activity was required for the mangroves. Mind you, mangroves cannot be reforested; they have to be restored. So there's a difference, which led to carbon sequestration improvement and also protecting the whole community which was dependent on that mangrove area. In the end, I would like to say that adaptation should not only be limited to a buzzword. It has been a buzzword, honestly, for centuries, because if you talk about climate change being a century-old concept, it has been. I think it's high time that we do invest our energies to talk about adaptation very seriously. ADB is already committed to contributing about 30 billion USD by 2030, and this is just a start. I think collaborating with all of you will pave the way, and we're going to achieve success eventually. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Akshita, for your beautiful presentation, and you have given a beautiful picture of how ADB is doing for the adaptation and forest management in Sundarban, in Himachal Pradesh, and also you have given a view of the ADB's international projects like mangrove restoration in Philippines, countries like Philippines, and we are really excited to know about ADB's massive plan for climate adaptation planning and implementation, and we are looking forward to be a part of it if we can contribute something there. And also you have talked about the restoration of mangrove through the MISTI program of Government of India and all these things. So it's we are really got our knowledge on these aspects of ADB's different works for climate adaptation and nature-based solution. Many thanks, Akshita, and last but not the least, we will go to our final presenter, Urjaswi. She is an officer in UNDP. She's here? Yeah, okay. So, and at the finally, we would like to know the role of ecosystem services for climate adaptation and importance of community-based management for ecosystem conservation and restoration, including wetland and forest. So, over to you, Urjaswi. We don't have much time, so I request you to little bit shorten your presentation. Thank you. Over to you, Urjaswi.
Thank you. Yes, to save time and to the desk. So thank you everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Urjaswi Sodhi, and I'll be presenting on behalf of Dr. Ruchi Pant from UNDP India. Thank you for this very informative session. I think it's a great learning opportunity. So since the theme of the session revolves around nature-based solution and climate adaptation, I would like to take this opportunity to highlight a few case studies primarily on ecosystem-based adaptation to build resilient communities and ecosystems. So starting with one of the flagship projects of the Government of India supported by UNDP, the Green Climate Fund finance project on enhancing climate resilience of India's coastal communities. This project primarily aims at building resilience of coastal communities through ecosystem-based adaptation approach. It has three main focal areas. The first area is restoration of critical coastal ecosystems such as mangroves, salt marsh, seagrass, corals and coastal watersheds. The second one revolves around climate adaptive alternate livelihoods such as mussel, oyster farming, SRI, etc. And the third is strengthening the governance mechanisms. This project is currently in Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra and Orissa. So under the project, the aim is to restore about 15,000 hectares of the coastal ecosystems. Till now, we have restored more than 3,000 hectares of mangroves and about 1,600 hectares of coastal watershed. The work around seagrass and salt marsh is yet to begin this year in Orissa after consultations from a lot of research institutes and experts. So this work is being undertaken by the state governments in close collaboration with these research institutes, but these are led by the community members. So not only does it help in improving the carbon sink capacity, the local biodiversity, livelihood opportunities, and primarily for women who are a big part of this initiative. So the aim of the project is to benefit approximately 2 million people in the 3 states, and 50% of this would be women. So a model that has been piloted in the state of Orissa is of the Women Climate Champions. About 300 women from the local communities have been trained in the scientific know-how of these interventions based on ecosystem restoration and the livelihood opportunities. These women not only play a crucial role in sensitizing and mobilizing other community members, but also support them in the technical aspects during implementation. These women have also played an incredible role in disaster preparedness in Orissa. The role of these women climate champions and ecosystem restoration can be exemplified by highlighting how they have impacted, how they've worked in the latest, the Orissa cyclone that occurred, and there was rapid mobilization of these climate champions who not only helped in preparedness but also post-disaster recovery. It was also reported that the mangrove plantation, especially in the Bhattacharya area, helped in reducing the storm surge impacts. So, building on the importance of community-led adaptation, UNDP is also supporting the Government of India in the Small Grants Initiative. It's a flagship program which is funded by the Global Environment Facility. For more than 20 years, India has been a part of this program. Grants have been provided to more than 600 projects for biodiversity conservation, climate change, and land restoration. The aim of this project is to build capacities of the local communities and the community-led NGOs. They pilot innumerable innovative projects which are related to these themes. So, just to highlight, ending my presentation with this, that UNDP has helped the Government of India to identify and document more than 1,000 nature-based solutions. This has been done through the India Biodiversity Awards and other tools such as the other effective area-based conservation measures. These have helped over the last decade or so in identifying the work that has been done by community members for conservation, biodiversity conservation and adaptation. These have been compiled in multiple compendiums. One is the India Naturally. This you can find in the National Biodiversity Authority's portal. So OECMs are basically other effective area-based conservation measures. These are tools to identify and recognize the conservation practices that are outside the legally protected areas. They also play a crucial role in identifying nature-based solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Urjaswi, for your beautiful presentation. And so you have highlighted on UNDP's different initiatives for adaptation planning and implementation, especially in the coastal India, focusing on the state of Orissa. And you have also enriched us with your speech on the blue carbon asset in India and how UNDP is taking different initiatives to protect them, including their identification of more than 1,000 nature-based solutions. And also we are enlightened with the concept of women climate champion and their role in disaster risk resilience. And this award is given by UNDP. So many thanks for giving us such an overview about the ecosystem services-based adaptation planning in the coastal India by UNDP. So I think we are at the end of our panel when we have to finish it as time is short, and I think we have covered the overall approaches of nature-based solution and climate adaptation, starting from climate financing to ecosystem services valuation to NBS role, nature-based solutions role for food security and smart agricultural practices. Then we have covered in the forestry resilience practices in India and different initiatives by ADB. And then we finally came to know about UNDP's different initiatives for taking up climate adaptation, implementation and practices in the coastal India. So I'd like to finish our session here, and before that I'd like to go to the audience and ask if you have any question, please come across and ask us to our distinguished panelists. Over to you, dear audience.
Hi, good afternoon. So I am Abhirup Basu and I am from Video in India, part of ESG and Sustainability team. So my question is around like overall implementation of nature-based solutions. So one thing in my experience is what I've seen is while identification of solutions has happened, implementation definitely there seems to be some lacuna. So for example, in the space of used water management, with a lot of sewage treatment plants coming up in the country, a lot of prescribed technologies from CPHEO particularly revolved around mechanical solutions rather than nature-based solutions. And with respect to practical implementation also, what we see is that, for example, in case of constructed wetlands, a lot of challenge around availability of land, especially in urban centers, remains to be a challenge. And with respect to the quality of sewage also that comes in, nature-based solutions don't really work out. So my question to the panel is, what are some of the wider enablement measures that we can see so that nature-based solutions can actually be scaled up in the long run? Thank you.
So, anyone want to your panelists to answer?
Anybody, like anybody can take it up.
So can you just make your question a little bit specific so that
the specific part of it is that what are some like policy measures or some enablement measures in terms of like financing we have been discussing and wider tools that can actually help scale up nature-based solutions. Like because as I highlighted the example of wastewater management, like a lot of solutions are not actually being implemented on the ground. So just wanted to understand what could be some enablement measures.
If I may answer this. So coming from a donor background, a lot of initiatives have actually been kick-started by multilaterals and bilaterals. If you're aware of this Swachhata Startup Challenge, it was started by AFT and MoA, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. And the whole idea was to find innovative solution by the startups in scaling up problems of solid waste management actually. And Government of India has also initiated this Cities 2 program where the focus largely is on solid waste management. So herein a lot of bilaterals and multilaterals are coming. It's a co-financing facility between GIs, between KFW, AFD, ADB, etc. And I think eventually we are going to come up with solutions on how to scale up this massive problem of solid waste management by NBS. I hope it answers your question.
Yeah, actually, coincidentally, I was working around the Cities 2.0 program, but sadly, what I see is some of the initial proposals that have come in. They again revolve around a lot of mechanized solutions, especially if you talk about C&D waste processing. So yeah, I mean, would love to see some nature-based solutions emerge.
I would pass on your suggestion to one of my colleagues who's managing the project.
Thank you so much for the question, and I would like to ask Rashmi sir to give some highlights on it.
Thank you. And the question is on implementation. The problem lies in financing, and problem lies in developing a framework which can ensure that these benefits are passed on to the people who are vulnerable, the communities which are affected by climate change. We don't have a framework for that at the ground level. So I talked about that in my opening remarks, that we need to mainstream, because we can't have separate funds for adaptation and then expect that these are passed on to the communities. This has been a practice so far. We create multilateral funds, we create national funds. We had a national adaptation fund. What impact has it made on the ground? It hasn't made any impact at all. So ultimately, the the channelizing agencies like state governments which are implementing those programs or the NGOs which are implementing those programs need to develop a framework for measurement of the benefits and ensure that these benefits are passed on. The payments are made according to that. Now that doesn't happen in the current government programs the way they are designed. So that is why all these environmental programs are failing. So what is it that we need to do is there? So my suggestion is that one is that all the developmental expenditures must be related to a framework for measurement of the benefits. That is not being done at the moment. Most of the expenditures take place and the expenditure itself is the final outcome. But expenditure is not related to the outcomes in terms of environmental benefits. So that's a program design defect that we need to correct at the ground level, number one. And number two, the kind of projects which we need to take up. For example, in nature-based solutions, what is the largest program, government program going on? National Afforestation Program, government level. Let's not talk about the other. The voluntary market is also, basically trading the carbon credits. It's based on carbon benefits, not based on non-carbon or other benefits. So the afforestation program also has failed to make an impact. What is the goal that we have? 2.5 to 3 billion tons of additional carbon stock. So again, whenever we talk about adaptation programs, we talk about carbon benefits, carbon stock, carbon benefits. No, this is not going to help adaptation. For adaptation programs, we need to go beyond carbon. The environmental conservation is the real issue there. So, but we are seeing a lot of environmental degradation taking place. So in a background where environment is getting degraded day by day, how can you expect adaptation? So that is the major challenge. We need to ensure a program of environmental conservation and monetize the benefits to the environment and pass it on to the communities.
Can you start there? So I give an example of Sundarban Tiger Reserve where we worked, and I've been interestingly working, and I'm happy to hear from Akshita as well, the kind of mentions she had about Sundarban Tiger Reserves, resilience mechanism, and it's like in a landscape, it's like spreading hands and engulfing, capturing everything, just coming to it. The best example in the world where the wetland is being used as a source of processing, decomposing waste of a city. We have examples. I'm talking about Sundarban. East Calcutta wetlands also is another example. It is partially treated and then it's taken care of by those. It's a wonderful mechanism. There are examples across the globe where wetlands are being used as processing human viscosities. It depends on the carrying capacity as well. Rightly saying, and kind of waste just flowing over there. It's too much, toxic. It's very difficult to totally based on nature-based mechanism. We have a blended system as well, solution as well. Secondly, I'll just give you an example. I was just talking to Dr. Rashmi in the morning. We just become too much focused on climate kind of, solutions. There's a whole menu available. I have been teaching this subject all my life, and I had more than 200 examples of various instruments available across, landscape benefits, watershed, biodiversity, climate, carbon, and being part of a ministry, I've been requesting them rather to establish a dedicated department of ecosystem services. I did my Fulbright in the US and picked up a place in a state or a region where of course my guide was Dr. Costanza, who studied this kind of work. And there's a department, there's a Bureau of Environmental Services in America, where I worked in Portland City, which actually provides salmon credits, which provides salinity credits, which provides nutrient credits. So a whole menu is available. Otherwise, carbon confines only to one set of stakeholder, one set of service. If you are able to conserve the habitat of salmon, which is the cuisine of America, you are being rewarded for it. I attended a program, the Ecosystem Environmental Accounting organization called as Limit Partnership, which actually has a system. Dr. Rashmi talked about frameworks, and everybody talks about frameworks. We have also developed a framework for capturing many such benefits. You go and actually conduct your survey and a site where people are claiming that they have conserved the habitat of salmon. You go with the spreadsheet model, take readings of the culture, the BOD, COD, the cubic feet availability of ungulates like that. You capture everything, come back and run the model. When it's above a certain level, it means you have conserved the habitat of salmon and you can be credited by being verified by the organization. Carry your card to the Bureau of Environmental Services and immediately encashed. Why can't we have this in India? I've been raising my voice. I don't want to make it a cacophony, it's still musical and way to get it done, and we're gradually moving towards that. At least green periods have come into being, still require a bit of strengthening, enrichment, but there's a way, but it requires a mission board that we have to establish. Taxes कितने तरह के होते हैं, सेस होते हैं, चार्जेस होते हैं, वो चार्ज तो सब कुछ है, तो इंसेंटिव की बात है तो खाली एक इंसेंटिव अवेलेबल है. You have to come with a variety of incentives, and every stakeholder, why not we, the urban citizens, should be incentivized. So whether it switched from traditional electricity to solar based, he was immediately given a discount in his bill. In Bhopal, where I actually live, we have the whole house is solar panel. We didn't have a car from there, we didn't have a house from there, but nothing, no incentive has come. It is as a nature conscious lovers, and we are contributing towards nature. So if you have small things, boon se khada karta hai. Why don't we do that in India? Create a whole menu. Hotel mein jaake menu dekhte hain kitni variety hai. That's what well-being is all about. The choices available. So choices available able to cover the entire ambit of issues, and people will come forward and definitely do conservation. Why only we assign to rural people to do conservation? Why only policymakers look after? Everybody is a stakeholder who have dependence, interest, and knowledge about that. They can make a difference. So this one is required in the country to make a difference. Actually.
Thank you so much, Madhu ma'am, for the closing remark. And now we are already, running out of time, and the lunch time is also approached already. So we are finishing our panel here, and I'd like to now felicitate the panelists with a small token of gift.